Hey, all, Baruch Levy B here. I am excited to talk to you today about my newest podcast. This episode that I just dropped is about Enneagram One, the reformer, the sometimes called the perfectionist. For those of you who are just joining me for the first time, I have been teaching the Enneagram for a few years now, and most recently, I created my own program, my own system. I've merged the work of the Enneagram, which is an ancient personality assessment system. For those of you who aren't familiar, Ennea means nine. And so it's based on kind of this image here that I have in front of me of nine basic energy, personality types, ways we move through the world. And I brought that together with the work of my teacher and mentor, Dr. Viktor Frankel, who is founder of logotherapy, healing through meaning or meaning-centered living and guidance, and bringing those two worlds together under the Defiant Spirit. So if you want to learn more, jump over to defiantspirit.org, where you can learn all about the different options and opportunities I have to work together. I do a lot of counseling and coaching using the Enneagram and this system that I've created, because to me, it is a roadmap for how to, as Dr. Frankel would say, stop living in reaction and start living in response. We're here to be responsible, able to respond. And that means to be able to choose our direction in life and not to have it chosen for us. Well, the Enneagram presents, in my opinion, the best roadmap that I have found to date of how to stop reacting, where I go when I'm reacting. And so in the podcast, you can listen over at defiantspirit.org or get it over on Podbean or iTunes or wherever. Today, I'm taking on the Enneagram 1, the reformer. So Enneagram 1s, even if you're not, by the way, this type, um, the work I'm doing is helping people access all nine of these energies, all nine of these types. We have each one within us. The question is, how do we rank order them? Maybe it's not your number one, so to speak, but it is in you. And as I'm describing it, I think you'll hear some of it in you. I'll go deeper into it into the podcast. So if you want the whole full thing, jump over there and listen to it. But in it, we talk about some famous folks who are probably Enneagram ones, though this not necessarily hard facts. But Hillary Clinton is probably an Enneagram one. Who else do I have on here? And you can see it over there on not on the podcast. You can get it on YouTube as the video of what I'm talking about. The other famous ones maybe are Elon Musk, although he's argued to be an Enneagram 5, the investigator. I think he's a 1. Brene Brown, she says she's an Enneagram 1, and that strikes me as true, and I'll tell you why. Who else? Harrison Ford, Matt Damon. Matt Damon plays a lot of Enneagram 1s. The movie that I saw relatively recently where it's definitely a Enneagram 1 movie is The Martian, and I'll tell you why. Leonard Nimoy, Spock, very one-ish, plays ones. Al Gore, a 1, and you can see that in his work around climate change. Michelle Obama, Martha Stewart, for better and worse. For better, you can see her brand and her perfection. Everything she does is excellent. And then cutting corners and not living up to that perfection wound her up in prison. She did her time. She's back on top. So ones are not perfect, even if that's what they strive towards. So I don't know, flavors, values, principles, and then you can listen over there. But they're principle driven. My son, one of my sons, is a 1, Yehuda, if you know Yehuda. He's all about principles and values. Again, doesn't mean he's perfect, doesn't mean he doesn't stray. He's 20 years old, he strays like the rest of them. But there's something about straying away from his principles that just eats him up. Whereas other types, yeah, of course, human beings want to live with integrity, but it doesn't take its toll on them like it does a 1. I work with a lot of 1s in executive coaching. They oftentimes are in corporate kind of environments. They do well in corporate environments or places where there's a lot of compliance, where there's a lot of systems in place. And they really struggle when they're not living up to their principles or the people around them aren't living up to them. They have so much inner criticism. They're the most self-critical type. They're probably the most other critical type too, criticizing, but they're so hard on themselves. And so with my son and with other ones, I see part of my job is to help them ease up on the criticism, to be less perfect, right? Or to shift into what Voltaire called perfection is the enemy of the good. To be good, but not perfect. To help remember that nobody's perfect, or their work is to be imperfect, perfectly imperfect. So Enneagram ones, really, you can feel they're just committed to this kind of perfect idealistic image of themselves or society. And when that doesn't match up, they can go into meltdown mode if they're in reaction. And so helping yourself back off of perfectionism, get into a place of good or good enough to ease up, or as I say, to help Enneagram ones become worse, right? To chill out, to lay on the couch, to take that vacation, to relax. It's not easy for ones. It comes from a deep need to prove their worth by proving that they're perfect. And so, really helping them understand that they're worthy because of who they are, not because of how they perform, not because of how well they do something. Ones are just driven towards perfection or excellence. And it's so beautiful and wonderful to see somebody committed to excellence and giving the best of what they have. Excuse me, when it crosses a line into impossible standards for themselves or for others, you got to take a step back. You got to take a deep breath. You got to be compassionate, be gentle. And so understanding this has helped me relate better to ones. I shouldn't say I don't. I try not to add any more fuel to their fire. In the past, with my son as an example, I definitely added more criticism to his already unbearable self criticism. And once I started studying the Enneagram and I backed off of criticism, our relationship improved. And my work with other Enneagram ones is really accelerated since I know that my job is to help, as we say in the clergy world, to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. Well, in the case of a one, it's to comfort the afflicted. So if you have ones in your life, to really appreciate that perfectionism, that criticism that you're experiencing is coming from a good place. Doesn't mean you have to accept it. It doesn't mean you have to live with it. But it does mean if you want to improve your relationship with them, or if you're a one and you want to improve your relationship with others, to really start to check in with where is it coming from and why is it here? And becoming honest that it will never happen in this lifetime. It will not be perfect. Our world will not be perfect. You will not be perfect. Perfection destroys. Goodness is attainable. Good enough is the work of a one. Letting go of that idealistic perfection for what is real, to embrace what is real, to live in the messiness of life with all of its undotted I's and uncrossed T's, and knowing that none of us will get out of this thing having perfectly done it all. To come to terms with that, to accept it, to embrace it, it's a revelation for ones. It's a huge sigh of relief for ones to bless them to be perfectly imperfect. So if you want more on Enneagram 1, jump over and listen to the whole podcast. Otherwise, you can just keep tuning back in here to whatever platform you're watching this on, and I will keep updating you with all of the opportunities and the educational experiences with the Defiance Spirit. Thank you for tuning in. And until we meet, get out there and defy your number, live your spirit. Talk to you next time. Jump over to defiantspirit.org. Peace.